I'm going to call to order the meeting of the Old Bridge Planning Board, and I'd like you to stand and salute the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Dawn, are you going to take the roll call?
Yes. Adequate notice of this meeting of the Old Bridge Township Planning Board has been provided in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act at least 48 hours prior to the commencement of the meeting by prominently the municipal complex, an announcement giving the time, date, location of the meeting, mailing such announcement to the Home News and Tribune, and filing a copy of such announcement with the municipal clerk. Mr. De Palma?
Here.
Mr. Lauer?
Here.
Mr. Mamakis?
Here.
Mr. Marucci?
Here.
Mr. Schmitz?
Here.
Mr. Lenning?
Here.
Mr. Pink? You have to unmute, Mr. Pink. Mr. Petty?
Here.
Chairwoman Cannon?
Here.
Mr. Sardillo?
Here.
Ms. Sawant?
Here.
Ms. Shapiro? Not here. Okay, we're good.
Okay, we have on the screen the phone numbers that you can call in if you have any comments regarding tonight's agenda with the different applications that we have on schedule. So we're going to start. We have the minutes from the September 1st, 2020 meeting. Can I have a motion to accept?
I'll move it.
Moved by Mr. Marucci, second.
I'll second.
Who is that? Mr.
Mr.
Lauer?
Lenning?
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Mamakis?
Yes.
Mr. Marucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz?
Yes.
Mr. Lenning?
Yes.
Mr. Pink?
Yes.
Mr. Petty?
Yes.
Chairman Cannon?
I'll abstain since I was not here. Okay, we then have the planning board schedule for 2021. Does anybody, we got an amendment. Did everybody get the amendment?
Yes.
Okay, does anybody have any questions or concerns?
Nope.
Okay, we have to approve that, Dawn, right?
Yes, we have to vote on that.
Okay, so can I have a motion to approve the meeting schedule for next year?
I'll move it.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Mamakis?
Yes.
Mr. Marucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz?
Yes.
Mr. Lenning?
Yes.
Mr. Pink?
Yes.
Mr. Petty? Chairman Cannon?
Yes. Okay, we have resolution, escrow deficiency resolutions for, I'm just going to do them all together. That's okay, right?
Yes.
Okay. 10-2020P RD Management, $5,000. 54-17P K Hovnavian, Old Bridge, 2,000. And 09-19P Mount Hebron Cemetery, $500. So can I have a motion on that?
I'll move it.
Moved by Mr. Marucci,
I'll second.
seconded by Mr. Lauer. Roll call, please.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Mamakis?
Yes.
Mr. Marucci?
Yes.
Mr. Pink?
Yes.
Mr. Lenning?
Yes.
Mr. Petty?
Yes.
Chairwoman Cannon?
Yes. Resolution 19-19P Maria Marquez, 1-year extension of time on minor subdivision with C variances. Can I have a motion?
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Seconded by,
Marty Pink.
okay, Mr. Pink, roll call, please.
Mr. De Palma,
Yes.
Mr. Lauer,
Yes.
Mr. Mamakis,
Yes.
Mr. Marucci,
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz,
Yes.
Mr. Lenning,
Yes.
Mr. Pink.
Yes.
Okay, application 05-2020P, Texas Road Plaza 3, amended preliminary and final site plan. Can I have a motion?
I'll move it. I'll second.
Okay, seconded by Mr. Barucci. Roll call, please.
Mr. De Palma,
Yes.
Mr. Lauer,
Yes.
Mr. Mamakis,
Yes.
Mr. Marucci,
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz,
Yes.
Mr. Lenning,
Yes.
Mr. Pink,
Yes.
Mr. Petty.
Yes.
Okay, completeness waiver projects, our requests. We actually have 3 of these tonight. 53-2020P, K. Havnavian of Old Bridge. And we have a long list of waiver requests. Do we have someone representing them, or Bina, are you gonna present that?
We have 3 on the line for them.
Oh. Okay, who's doing, Mr. Fisher?
We have Mr. Fisher, Mr. Curley, and Mr. Erickson.
Yes, Robert Curley here for K of Navy and the applicant. We're seeking a number of waiver requests for major site plan related to major site plan application for basically it's for the Oakside Glenwood, the single family homes portion of that development where site plan is for a sales trailer and for a model homes area. And the waivers are really related to the limited scope of the site plan. We can have perhaps Mr. Erickson comment on the waiver requests. I don't
Okay.
see it.
Thank you, Mr. Curley. These 2 areas are small sections of a previously approved subdivision for the Oaks at Glenwood. We came in for a preliminary and final approval with the Brunetti organization for the overall development. And then KHOV came back with the 4 single-family sections subdivision and got some modifications to the approvals. So we have, when we submitted all those applications, we also submitted all of the items that we're currently requesting waivers for. So that's the basic reason we're requesting these waivers, is that the subset or the substance of those documents have not changed. We're coming in now just for a approval for temporary uses, a model area, which will be single family homes, previously approved single family lots. 2 of the single family lots will have a temporary parking lot installed on it to service those model homes. The sales trailer is also going on 2 previously approved single family home lots, and the parking lot for that sales trailer will be on those same lots. So while we are changing the uses on those lots temporarily, they will revert back to the single family lots that were previously approved, and houses will be built on them.
Madam Chairman, I apologize, I should have said so before. Mr. Erickson, just before, I know you've already just testified, but just before testimony, I thought of it after you already started speaking. I didn't want to interrupt you. Would you please raise your right hand, and do you swear that the testimony that you've already given and any future testimony that you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And could you just state your name and spell your last name for the record, please?
David G. Erickson, E-A-R-E-C-K-S-O-N.
Thank you very much. I apologize for that.
I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey, graduated with a bachelor's from NJIT. I guess I should have been qualified first too.
Okay,
Oh,
we're new
okay.
at this. Thank you. Okay, do you have any other information to present, or that's it?
The one minor change, the drainage calculations. We are requesting a waiver for full drainage calculations. Again, they were submitted previously under the previous applications. We did submit a drainage narrative with this application to show that the temporary uses that we are proposing has no significant change to those previously approved drainage calculations.
Okay. And do you have any other testimony or information to
No.
give? Okay. Does anybody from the board have any questions?
I do.
Yes, Mr. Morrow.
What is the surface of the parking area you're going to apply?
It is going to be bituminous,
And then to be removed at a later date?
correct.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Anyone else from the board have any questions or comments? Okay, Vina?
Yes, good evening, board. So I did review the application. I met the applicant at a pre-application meeting prior to even reviewing the application, and I fully support all the waivers that have been requested, except for the ones that are listed on page 2. I did have an opportunity to speak to Mr. Erickson prior to issuing my memo. I did have the engineering staff with me when I spoke to him too. So the only items that I would request that the applicant submit is the calculations for the parking. It's just the temporary office sales area, but I would want to see the parking calculations. The item 40 A, B, C, which is related to landscaping. I do want to see what was approved prior, especially in the model home area. The soil erosion and sediment control, that's item 42, 43. This project will require, have an impervious coverage of more than 5,000 square feet. By ordinance, we require that a soil erosion and sediment control plan be submitted. So that's something I would not waive. And then with the lighting plan, I did speak to Mr. Erickson. We just want to see what was approved for the temporary office sales area and the parking area, what was approved prior. So that's something I would want to see. And then the architectural drawings, because the model homes will be retained eventually and will be sold. So I would want to see the elevations for the model homes. I see Mr. Erickson has his
Mr.
hand raised.
Erickson?
If I could just comment. We had the opportunity to revise our plans and we submitted them to the township yesterday. We added the number of parking spaces to the model home site plan, the required and proposed. We far exceed the required amount by what we're proposing. We added the existing trees. We have already submitted for a tree removal permit. We've been approved by the forester and we're just waiting for the land disturbance permit on this site. So that is labeled with the types and sizes of trees that will remain. We added a landscape plan that was prepared by KHAV. The details of plantings are on the previously approved phase 1 plan, so we did not resubmit those, but they are part of the original plan set. And the landscape plans do show all the proposed common names, botanical names, and placement of all the proposed landscaping. Soil erosion and sediment control. We have an overall soil erosion sediment control approval for this project. And I'm just trying to get verification from soils that we will not need it for each individual home, which is what I have discussed with them. As you probably know, we're currently installing the infrastructure, all of the roads and drainage and sanitary sewer going in, and we have not needed to do any individual soil erosion control plans for that approach. It is my opinion we'll have the same approach with the single families, but I will try to get confirmation from soils. Lighting plan, we added the locations of the lights as requested, and then the architectural drawings were submitted yesterday.
I haven't looked at the revised
We
submission
haven't gotten
yet.
them yet.
Yes, we have.
We didn't receive them yet.
They must be in quarantine. I handed them to the gentleman at the front door.
Mr. Erickson, I just want to discuss the soil erosion and sediment control plan, because prior to this meeting, I did get a chance to speak to Nicole, the township engineer, again to reconfirm. And she did insist that the trailer office space and the parking area for the model homes, she would want to see the soil erosion sedimentary control plan. So I think you should get in touch with her office again.
I will.
And if you have any communications, then do produce that to us or email it to us so that we have some sort of backup related to the soil erosion.
I will.
That's all.
Okay, so Vina, based on what he submitted, are you going with the same list that you said as far as the ones you were not recommending?
Yes, I think so, because we haven't received the submission. I haven't seen. So I think we should grant all the waivers that I recommend granting, and the ones that are listed, we should not approve them. And as the applicant's engineer is saying that this has been submitted, so I think once I receive them, I can deem the application complete.
Oh, okay. All right. So do we, at this point, ask for public participation? If anybody has any comments regarding this application on the waivers requested by the Hovnavian development? If you have any comments or questions, you can use the phone numbers to call in. Tanya, let us know if anybody calls.
I see no hands raised. There's no public attending the meeting. No hands have been raised.
Nobody's calling.
Nope.
Okay. Does the board, do you have any comments or questions, the board, before we have Mr. Sardillo review what we're being asked to vote on? Okay. Our attorney, can you just review so everybody knows what the waivers are that we're not granting? Yes, or the ones we're granting, one way or the other.
Absolutely. Out of all the waivers that were requested, we are granting all but the 40A, B, and C, 42 and 43. And I apologize, I don't have all the numbers right in front of me. The calculation for parking, providing a copy of the approved lighting plan, and the providing the elevations for the model homes. Aside from those items, and they're more specifically identified in the township planner's report, the motion would be to grant the remaining waivers being requested.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Mr. Marucci?
Yes.
I'll second it.
Okay, seconded by Mr. Pink. Roll call, please.
Mr. De Palma,
Yes.
Mr. Lauer,
Yes.
Mr. Mamakis,
Yes.
Mr. Marucci,
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz,
Yes.
Mr. Lenning,
Yes.
Mr. Pink,
Yes.
Mr. Petty,
Yes.
Chairwoman Cannon.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, I have one question. Vina, would they be granted upon your receipt? You know, is that how we'd approach this?
Nina, are you going to answer that?
Yes, typically what happens is as soon as I receive the submission, I review it again for completeness. Those items will be marked as submitted, and our office will issue you a letter giving you the date for the hearing,
Okay, that's what I
deeming
just
you
wanted.
complete and the date for the hearing.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. Okay, we have application 62-2020P 92 Route 34 LLC, and then waiver requests follows. Okay, do we have the applicant?
We have his
Yes.
attorney, Sal Alfieri.
Salvatore Alfieri, on behalf of the applicant. I can't get my, Dawn, I can't get my camera to work, but that's okay with me, if it's okay with you.
We saw you before. What happened to you?
I don't know.
There
Oh,
you
there
go.
There you go.
There you go.
So, thank you. This is really just a modification to an existing car wash facility. We have Vina's report. There are a bunch of waivers because, again, the site is already almost fully developed. There are 5 waivers that she lists on page 2 of her report. All of those waivers are relatively minor. The applicant will address each of those to make sure that the application is deemed complete, and the balance of them, the other 33 that are listed that Vina says she has no issue with, we would request that the board grant. If you want me to summarize the 5 that are required, we have to put a signed 200-foot property owner list on the plan. She wants some spot elevations. We have to provide water and sewer details, and the refuse and vacuum enclosure details on the plans. Our engineer has already looked at this and said that he can address all of those comments.
Okay, Bina, did you want to elaborate on any of that?
Sure. Actually, this application is an existing car wash facility. The applicant is proposing some minor changes to the site, including repaving, restriping the parking area, putting vacuums within the parking area, a canopy above the kiosk. So it's minor in nature, and I am comfortable recommending the board to waive these other items. The 5 items that I would require is 1, the 200-foot list. That is pretty standard, always required. We need the spot elevations, the water main and services, sanitary sewer mains and laterals, and the refuse disposal, especially near the area where the vacuums are proposed. So I would recommend the board grant the other waivers requested.
Okay, does anybody from the board have any questions or comments? Nope. Okay. I'm just curious because I drive by there every day. So is it going to be, it's just the circulation pattern basically is being revised?
Well, and he's adding vacuums because his business, people have cards and they could come vacuum the cars more regularly.
Oh, okay.
Barbara, to answer your question, actually the circulation is not changing as much. The circulation pattern still remains the same. They're just adding few parking spaces, and in the already existing striped parking areas, they're realigning it so that they can have vacuums on that side.
Oh, okay. Okay, so if the board doesn't have any questions or comments, we'll open it to the public. If anybody from the public has any questions or concerns, please call in. Anybody responded?
No callers.
No callers? Okay, Mr. Sardella, can you review?
Absolutely, Madam Chairwoman, excuse me. A vote in favor of the granting of the waiver would be granting this out of the 33 waivers requested, all but 5 identified as number 10, 37C, 41A, 41B, and 42F as identified in the Township Planner's report.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a motion, please?
I'll move it.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. De Palma,
Yes.
Mr. Lauer,
Yes.
Mr. Mamakis,
Yes.
Mr. Marucci,
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz,
Yes.
Mr. Lenning,
Yes.
Mr. Pink,
yes,
Mr. Petty,
Yes.
Chairwoman Cannon.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Sal,
Good
you have
night.
one more.
Oh, I do?
Yes, you do.
Oh, yeah,
that's yours too? Oh,
Sorry.
then you have to-
Can't get rid of us that easy.
I know. I surprised my wife with this meeting tonight, so.
Okay, this is application 69-2020P Oak 18 LLC waiver request for one waiver request. Okay, do you want to explain that?
Well, this is simply a proposed shopping center on Route 18. The waiver request is not an issue. The one that we're requesting, we'll be glad to comply with. I mean, we would request that you grant the waiver. I think Vino's already recommended that it be granted.
Okay, Vina, did you want to elaborate on that at all, or?
No, actually, the applicant is just requesting a waiver from the aquifer recharge assessment, and we are okay with waiving that item.
Okay, anybody from the board have any questions or concerns?
Hey, Vina, what exactly is that waiver?
It's aquifer recharge. So if you are within the aquifer recharge area, then you're required to submit an assessment. They are not. So I'm okay to grant them that waiver.
Okay.
Okay, anyone else have any questions or comments? Okay, we'll open it to the public. If there's anyone from the public that has any comments or questions regarding this application, please call.
No public in attendance.
No one? Okay, can Mr. Savello, do you want to?
Absolutely. This is an easy one. There's only one waiver being requested, so a vote in favor will be granting the waiver from item number 3D for the aquifer recharge assessment.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Okay, moved by Mr. Mamakis. Second?
I'll second.
Second, roll call, please.
Mr. De Palma,
Yes.
Mr. Lauer,
Yes.
Mr. Mamakis,
Yes.
Mr. Marucci,
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz,
Yes.
Mr. Lenning,
Yes.
Mr. Pink,
yes,
Mr. Petty,
Yes.
Chairwoman Cannon.
Yes. Okay, you're set
Thank
to
you.
go.
All right, good night,
Now you can
everyone.
go.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Take
Bye-bye.
care.
Okay, next we have a council referral for Old Bridge Madawan Road area in need of investigation study. So Vina is going to give us a presentation.
So good evening, board members again. Basically, the Old Bridge Redevelopment Agency has been looking at different areas within the township to see how or which areas actually meet the redevelopment and rehabilitation criteria. And at the August meeting, the redevelopment agency went through a couple of areas that potentially have a potential to be redeveloped. And the first two areas that we began looking at was one, the area on Old Matawan Road, and the other one was the Route 35 Lawrence Harbor, Lawrence Parkway intersection area. So at that August meeting, the redevelopment agency passed a resolution requesting the council to direct the planning board to authorize and initiate an area investigation study for these two areas. At the September 21st meeting, the council, I made the similar presentation to the council for both areas, Old Matawan Road as well as Route 35 Lawrence Harbor. And the council passed a resolution requesting the planning board to initiate an area investigation on these two areas. Tonight, I will present to you the Old Matawan Road area at the next planning board meeting, I will be presenting the Route 35 area, which is bit larger compared to the Old Matawan Road area. In the interim, I have already started working on the study. I have been in touch with Joe, and I will have a draft for him to review before it is circulated to the planning board. So I'll just go with my presentations so that you are familiar with the area I'm talking about. So the area that is on the screen, which is to the west of Old Matawan Road and to the east of Highway 18 and then 516. This area actually comprises of some vacant lots, commercial properties, few residential homes, but this actual area is a gateway or entrance to Old Bridge from East Brunswick side, and it's ideal for redevelopment. Background, the study area includes 26 parcels, and the existing land use, like I said, is commercial, residential, mostly automotive and personal services, and then vacant parcels. Many of the homes within the area were built in the 1800s and early 1900s. So this is our zoning map. You will notice that the blue dotted line marks the area in question, and this area completely lies in the EDO1, the Economic Development Opportunity Zone 1. This is the land use map, which shows the land use on each property. The properties that are in gray are vacant parcels. This property, most of you are familiar with, is the NJDOT owned lot. Mostly has outdoor storage, trailers parked on this area. It has a lot of grass, overgrown grass. This property is vacant. This is again a vacant property. This is again a vacant parcel. And then the dark orange are commercial properties. The properties in yellow are residential properties. What you see on the screen now is the smart growth map. Basically, this area lies within the Metropolitan Planning Area 1, and the state plan recommends that these areas that lie within the Metropolitan Planning Area are highly suitable for redevelopment. They encourage infill development because there's already infrastructure in there to support any redevelopment rehabilitation projects. So this dotted line, which you see, this one is the boundary of the planning area 1, and you will notice that the study area lies within that PA1 area. The blue lines on the map indicate the bus lines that run through it. So the Middlesex County Area Transit Bus M3, which runs between Brunswick Square Mall and Old Bridge, traverses through this area. NG Transit Bus Line 68 runs from Old Bridge, East Brunswick, Jersey City, and Weehawken. Bus number 139 traverses between Lakewood, Old Bridge, and New York, and bus number 818, New Brunswick, East Brunswick, and Old Bridge. This only shows that the area is well connected to transit as well. Actually, and now that we are on this map, there is an area here right in the north, which lies within East Brunswick, but is a designated village based on the state plan. And generally, a designated village would mean that that area would encourage mixed use type of development, so which would be consistent with this area, because this area has a lot of offices, commercial properties, and few residences. Although the single family homes within the area are non-conforming, the EDO1 zone currently does not allow residences within the zone. There are 4 sites, particularly in this area, which are based on a report that was published by Madison Township Historic Commission in late 70s, these 4 properties were listed as historic sites. However, the New Jersey Register of Historic Places does not list these properties. So I have verified that, but these properties were at one time listed, so I have to include that in my report. This property at the corner, or the property which is right at the boundary of the study area, in fact, I don't know what was there before that was historic. However, it was a vacant parcel, and I see that a new home is being built on this property currently. The statutory criterias. So these are the criterias for redevelopment. First one, criteria A, which talks about substandard building conditions. Criteria B, which talks about abandonment of commercial and industrial buildings. To give you an example, we have the old school site, which was abandoned and meets the criteria B. Majority of these parcels actually meet, I'm sorry, I jumped, but majority of these parcels meet criteria H, which is consistency with smart growth policies per law and regulation. Going back to criteria C, it is when a public land or a privately owned land is vacant for more than 10 years or X amount of years. In fact, the NJDOT parcel qualifies or meets this criteria because it has been vacant for more than 10 years. Criteria D, which applies to many of the commercial properties, which talks about deleterious land use, faulty design, obsolete layout. And basically, these are properties where there is inadequate parking, the circulation within the property is inefficient. The uses, deleterious land uses, are where you have the buildings that follow planning principle from the 70s, where buildings have huge blank facades, and the building faces not the street but an internal parking area, is lacks windows. So that is criteria D. Many of the properties within this area meet the criteria D. Criteria E, which is growing lack of proper utilization of area. Criteria F, which is natural disasters, properties that are impacted, that are 5 and more acres and are impacted by natural disasters. Criteria G, if the property lies within the urban enterprise zone. None of the properties lie within the urban enterprise zone within this area. H is the consistency with smart growth principle. There was another criteria that was added, which said that even if there is a property that does not meet any of the above redevelopment criteria, if that property, inclusion of that property within a redevelopment study is found to be necessary for effective redevelopment, then that property could be included as part of your redevelopment study. So that there are some residences that are sandwiched between commercial properties which meet this criteria. Actually, yesterday night, I was in front of the council to revise the already approved resolution, because I wanted to ensure we include rehabilitation criteria as part of the resolution too, because there are many, there are residences within the area. Actually, to the east side of Old Matawan Road, there are a lot of residences that are, I believe, in the R7 zone. Let me just go back to the zoning map to show you. Yes. So these properties here, there are in R7 zone. This have been excluded from the area investigation study. However, there are few houses within this study area that are in EDO1 zone, but may benefit from the rehab criteria. And that's why rehabilitation was included. With the rehabilitation criteria, there are 6 criteria. First one, a significant portion of the structure in the area is deteriorated or substandard conditions. Second one is if the housing stock is more than 50 years old. Third, there is a pattern of vacancy, abandonment, or underutilization. Criteria 4, if there is persistent arrearage of property tax payments. 5, if there is environmental contamination. And 6, if the water and sewer infrastructure is old. Many of the houses within the area are actually more than 50 years old and meet criteria 2. However, I checked with OBMUA, the water and sewer infrastructure in this area is more than 50 years old, just like the homes. However, it is not in need of repair. But there is criteria 3 and criteria 2 and criteria 4 that apply to some of the residential properties within the area. Now, why redevelopment? So I think redevelopment is a very effective tool, especially when the township wants to revitalize or increase the property value of that area, especially this area because it is at the boundary of Old Bridge and East Brunswick. I think it's very important that the overall characteristics of the area is improved. There is an abandoned commercial property there that had fire, and that whole area is obviously unkept. There are no sidewalks. The commercial properties are pretty obsolete in layout. They are deleterious in their design. The parking lots, I was speaking to Barbara yesterday, and she too was mentioning that parking is very challenging on those commercial properties. One of the things I observed when I was going through the area or walking around is these properties are undersized. The zone requires 1 acre, but there is only one parcel within the entire study area. So out of the 26 parcels, there's only one parcel that is 1.4 acres. Otherwise, most of these properties are less than half an acre. So with the redevelopment designation, redevelopment and rehabilitation designation, these properties would qualify for tax abatements. So if we have a pilot, then the township could exempt taxes for up to 30 years. And with rehab, those properties could be tax exempt for 5 years. It allows the municipality to be able to do that. Plus, once there is an area designation, it acts as a catalyst for revitalization and spurring economic growth and development within the area. There are vacant parcels in the property. An area designation will instigate or encourage these properties to be developed. And in that way, we increase the ratables, improve the property values in the surrounding areas too. It helps promote sustainability. And lastly, there is already existing transportation. So the plan that we create will encourage safer mobility options for this area. Especially this area is kind of disadvantaged because it is abutting the ramp to 18. So they do not have access to 18 directly or 516. So most of these properties have access on Old Mattavan Road. So at the next meeting, I will have the area investigation report. I will ensure that the planning board has ample opportunity to read it, send me email asking questions, and then the planning board can take a vote on the area investigation study if they think it meets the criteria for redevelopment and rehabilitation.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
The only thing I have to say is I think it's important that we start to look at these properties and these areas and start to put a plan together to get them in the right place. Right? There's a number of different places. Like what we're talking about here, Route 35 corridor, that it's extremely important at this point in this juncture that we start to get plans together so that we can start to attract the developers to come in and redevelop those properties.
Okay, anyone else have any questions or comments or?
Yes, Mr. Mamakis,
Yes.
yes, and exactly what Derek said. Looking at the areas across town and identifying them as areas that we can look to help us grow the town and bring in developers to develop these areas that are somewhat blighted in some cases, but just need some help.
And what happens with the existing homeowners?
So
Because I know the area and a lot of them are going to be resistant to growth and change.
Mr. Marucha, I'm glad you asked that question because I have to confess, I missed that point. I want to emphasize again, this is a non-condemnation plan. The township will not exercise the power of eminent domain, which means that if the homeowner chooses not to take advantage of the redevelopment, they can do so. So they don't have to, they're not forced to do anything with their properties. The township will not be using eminent domain.
Okay.
The advantage is these homeowners, basically, once the area is designated as an area in need of redevelopment and rehabilitation, it gives us as a township the opportunity to see if we want to offer tax abatements to these residences to fix their houses. So typically the law allows you to give up to 5 years of tax abatement so that they can use that money to fix their houses, rehabilitate, revitalize the surroundings, and improve the property value by doing so. So that's just an advantage of the redevelopment. But if a homeowner doesn't want to do anything with his property, wants to retain it the way it is, because there will be properties that don't meet any criteria. They are within the smart growth area. However, it's not like they meet criteria if they are substandard or they are hindrance to the public health and safety. So in that case, they choose to remain the way they are. Joe, you can chime in because I know you're an expert.
Vina, you said it 100% correct. The really blunt answer is nothing happens to those property owners unless they want it to, because we're only doing it as a non-condemnation. So it's akin to just it's very simple to a rezoning. So the rezone, however the redevelopment plan is prepared, that new criteria will affect their property if they want to expand it, redevelop it, or demolish it, rebuild it, or however they want to do. It's just now a different set of regulations that would have to follow, different zoning that they'd have to follow than what is currently there. But essentially, it's non-binding. It's not that they have to act. It would be something as if they want to take advantage of it.
And actually, Mr. Marucci, just to add on to it, currently, this area is zoned for ED01. So it allows commercial space, office space. The residences are non-conforming. When a redevelopment plan is written, what happens typically is you allow more uses so that there is reinvestment in that area. You attract developers into that area. So it only benefits, it only helps increase the property values. But these existing homes, they are existing non-conformities. They have been there. So typically when a zone change or a redevelopment, a new zone is created through redevelopment, these homes do get a non-conformity certificate, right, Joe? Within 2 years of the zone change, these homes get that and they retain it until they want to change something on the property, correct?
Yeah, it depends on what the redevelopment plan says, because if the redevelopment plan makes it a permitted use now, they wouldn't. Right. Depends on how it ends up being drafted. But yes, you are correct.
Yeah, I do know some of those homes back there have been in families for generations. I do know a couple of homeowners in particular who've inherited the families, the home from their parents who got it from their parents as well.
I have a comment. Maybe clarification can be made. It's not that developers are going to come in and seek to take the entire area over. So just let's be clear about that so the homeowners do know, because we do talk about developers in specific portions of that area, like the school that's abandoned, just so that the residents do know that it's not seeking developers to come to take over the entire area. So if you want to just elaborate a little bit more on that so we can provide them the confidence they need in this change that's going to take place for the better from what we're looking at.
Right. And as Steve is absolutely right. It's just if they want to do something with their property, this gives them an opportunity. But it's not like somebody else is going to come and force them to do something. So they can retain where they are, they can maintain their property the way they have been and continue living.
Mhm.
And we did just approve a senior care facility there, correct?
That's correct.
In the school, yeah.
That's correct.
And Davina, when we were talking yesterday, I wasn't quite clear. Is it going to extend around the corner to the commercial, like the chop shop and the
So Barbara, the chop shop is part of this study.
Right.
It
Okay,
is
so
part
it
of
goes up to where the up to the river, basically?
Yes.
that
So I'll just go.
between East Brunswick and Old Bridge?
Yes. So I'll just go back to the. Yes. So this is the river. It goes back to the river here.
Okay.
And the store you were mentioning is right here.
In that group there.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. So encompass that whole area.
Yes, yes. And at a future point, like I said, the redevelopment agency has been looking at different sections. There is a possibility that this area extends further, and there is like a phase 2 to this area investigation study where we add in properties, because I know this is the 4-no there was an approval for this property, and nothing has happened so far. And then there is a commercial property on this side too. So there is a possibility that we extend it further at a later stage, and we keep adding sites to the redevelopment area.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? Okay, so you'll be back?
Yes.
With the next stage?
Yes. And at the next meeting, I'm not too certain if I will have the study for the next meeting. However, I will have a presentation for Route 35 and Lawrence Harbor at the next meeting.
Okay, very good. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, then we have a continuance, 10-2020 PRD Management is requesting it to be continued to October 27th with 2020 with further notice. So can we have a motion on that to grant the continuance?
I'll move it.
There, I have a question on that.
Oh, sorry.
Moved by Mr. Marucci, second?
Yeah, Mr. Lauer had a question.
Oh, Mr. Lauer, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. In moving this, is there a particular plan that's attached to this, or doesn't it matter at all?
What do you mean attached to it?
Well, I think we've looked at a couple of different submissions with this application. Am I right?
Right. Well, we're going to have an executive session when we adjourn this meeting. So
Yes.
Yeah, Ms. Chairman, I'd clarify that with real quick, if it's okay.
Yeah, sure.
The items that the plans that we've discussed in executive session at the last meeting and what was previously denied, those are still in negotiations. We're going to discuss those further in executive session this evening. The application that is subject to the continuance is the new application that the applicant filed over the summer. I don't remember exactly when it was filed, July or August, but that is the new application for the site that has the buildings changed in the dimension where they're actually facing the rear of the site rather than facing the roadway. Those plans, I believe, were circulated. I think they were part of the agenda still, even on tonight's meeting. But those are ones that they filed. It's still in, it's being continued. They're holding that kind of until we come to some finalization with regard to the settlement negotiations on what we're going to be discussing in executive session.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so can I have a motion to grant the continuance to October 27th with further notice?
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Okay, Mr. Marucci and seconded by Mr. Pink. Roll call, please.
Mr. De Palma,
Yes.
Mr. Lauer,
Yes.
Mr. Mamakis,
Yes.
Mr. Marucci,
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz,
Yes.
Mr. Lenning,
Yes.
Mr. Pink,
Yes.
Mr. Petty,
Yes.
Chairwoman Cannon.
Yes. Okay, anybody else have any comments or questions before we adjourn and then to go into executive session?
Nope.
Are we definitely going to be in the council chambers for the 27th meeting? Dina, do you know?
We will be continuing with the electronic meeting because there were some new regulations that came in last Friday, right, Joe?
Yes.
And we are pretty much in compliance. We did consult with our attorneys, like both zoning board and planning board, and most of the neighboring towns are still doing virtually. So we will continue to do it virtually until we have some further guidance.
Okay, well, can I have a motion to adjourn? And then we will go out and back in to do the executive session, and we will not be reporting anything out of executive session, right?
Correct. There'll be no further action taken after executive session this evening.
Okay, so can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll move it.
Moved by Mr. Lenning,
I'll second.
seconded by Ms. Marucci. Roll call, please.
Mr. De Palma,
Yes.
Mr. Lauer,
Yes.
Mr. Mamakis,
Yes.
Mr. Marucci,
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz,
Yes.
Mr. Lenning,
Yes.
Mr. Pink,
Yes.
Mr. Petty,
Yes.
Chairwoman Cannon.
Yes. Okay, see you in executive session.
What time are we just right back on?
Yeah,
Okay.
right? Is that? Okay,
Okay.
Yep, everyone, please use your the second link you received.
Thank you.